type yes in the chat box once you start seeing my screen. My screen is visible? Yes or no? Make it quick. Not yet. Okay. Yes. Check your internet connection, Thirumala, once again. Let me do the reshare. Okay. So let's start. So today we are going to discuss about the get request versus post request. We will do a post-mortem on get request as well as on post request. Right. So see, if anyone is asking you about the exact difference between the get and the post, the exact difference is get is meant for fetching the data. It is meant for fetching the information or fetching the data or fetching the resource from the server. Information or resources or data, whatever it is, from the server. Get is meant to fetch the data, post is meant to update the resources or update the information in the server side. Right? To update the information, we specifically choose the post request to update the resources or to update the information or to do any update in the server side. We do the post request. But the question is, you can also do the same thing by using get request. You can also perform the update at the same time by using the post request. You can also do the things that is being done by or that is being meant for the get request. You can do the either things. But the question is, if get is meant for fetching the data, you are also able to do the update information by using the get request. You can also do that. So it is like, see, if you are walking in a road, right? If you are walking in an highway, right? You have two options. You can directly walk on the highway. You can walk on the fast lane, right, where vehicles travels at the speed of 80 to 100 kilometers, or else you also have an option to walk on the pavement that is meant for the pedestrians. Right, there is a separate path for the pedestrians. You can use that path. Still, you are able to walk. At the same time, you can choose the highway also. You can also do the walking even in the highway. But which one is risky? Which one is safe? That is the question. Right? When you talk about the safety, when you talk about the when you talk about the exact things that is meant for you, that is meant for walking, right? You will walk on the pavement that is designed for pedestrians, isn't it? Likewise, if you want to fetch the data, use the get request. Get request is designed especially for fetching the resources. Post is designed especially for updating the request. Right? So in the interview point of view, there are high chances that you may be encountering this questions in contrast with the statement that you have delivered. You will be delivering this statement, but the question could be, right, can't I do the same thing with the post request? Likewise, you would be delivering this statement, but the question would be like, can't you do the same thing using get request? Right? For that, you have the answer. So this is the table that I have designed to answer these questions. Right? So there are some properties you see here. If you see, there is a body, there is a data request limit, there is a data type, there is safe, there is idempotent, there is caching and prefetching, there is bookmarkable. Right? After understanding each and every point, each and every property, right, you will get a lot of idea about the get request, when to use get request and when to use post request. Right? So let's get this started. So when you talk about the body, right? When you talk about the body is like when you are trying to access resources that is residing in the server using HTTP request. Right? For communication, you will do what? You will do two things. One is you will do HTTP request. So in the HTTP request, you will specify that what kind of request you are trying to looking for, right? For example, let me take this example. Try to pay some attention. So this is my simple HTML page. This is my simple HTML page, right? So instead of post, let me use get here. Instead of post, I'm using get. Let me save this and let me do instead of okay, right? Let me run this code. Run as run on server using Tomcat server. This is case one. See, I have got a page. So this is my request. This is my plain request. So if you take this is my client application. In my client application, my request is, so this is my URL, right? I'm looking for an HTML page. You know this already. A request will be sent to the server. Server is going to act upon your request and it will search for the specific index.html page and it will give you the response, right? When you say request and when you say response, you will also include that you will also prefix a word called http request, and when you say response, you will prefix a word called http. This is mandatory. You simply don't say request and response. Instead of saying that, you should say in this way: http request and http response, right? So this is the server, and you look for index.html and you get a response in the form of index.html. This index.html will be somewhere inside your server. Let us assume this is index.html. As soon as the page is found, you will get response in the form of HTML page. Right? Where is it? This is your response. You got a HTML page. Right? So here I am asked to enter your username. Let me enter my name itself, Balaji. Let me enter password. Right? If you talk about my request, so I have specifically mentioned a method called get request. Right? So this is a get request, typical get request, which means I am fetching the data. Right? If I am saying that I am fetching the data, but over here I am trying to submit some information. Right? It is against the rules. It is against the information that I have given. I have said that I am going to, get request is meant to fetch the data, but in this case, I am submitting an information. Information has been submitted. Right? Still it is working. But here the problem is, right? So the if you consider the body, for HTTP request, there is no body. Body in the sense all the data will be transmitted or will be displayed in the header itself. It is not going to have any body because the information that you have specified, this is the highly sensitive information. I have a username, I have the password that is getting displayed in the URL. Right? So this is one of the few cases where I can avoid what? Get request. So the conclusion is very simple. If I ever had to pass any sensitive information, I can choose get request or I can choose post request. But choosing the post request is appropriate. Get request is not appropriate because the information is getting displayed in the URL. First conclusion. Right? I can choose get, I can choose post. Right? But when you choose get, security is getting compromised. When you post, we will talk about this post. Why security is getting compromised? Confidential information is being displayed in the URL or in the header. Confidential information is being displayed or being made visible in the header. Of URL. Right? Why? Because why this information is being displayed? The answer is very simple. Get request as no body. This is the final conclusion. Get request as no body. That's why all the data will be carried using the URL header. So this is what the body talks about. So this all points are related to what? Related to get request. Right? So the first conclusion is get request. When you talk about body, the answer is what? No. No body. That's why all the information is being displayed in the URL itself. Making sense? Now second point is going to be very interesting. See, so this is compromising the data. Right? So it won't be appropriate to use the get request. So let us make few changes. Instead of using get, let me use post. Right? I have just saved this. Let me run on server. Right? After running on server, right, same page I got. This time the request is what? Post request. How can we confirm the request is post request? After submitting the data, Balaji 1, 2, 3, 4. See, are you able to see any information that is being shown up in the URL header? No, this time no information. Right? This time, if you check the URL bar, the data that we have entered is not being displayed. But this is a kind of submission. We are submitting the data to the server, but the information is not being displayed. Why the information is not being displayed? Internally, post method as a body. As a body. Inside the body, our data will get encoded inside the body, which is not visible to the end user, right? And which will not be displayed in the URL headers. Since the get request has no body, the information that we are trying to submit is getting displayed in the URL, because that is the only place where the data can be carried. But the post request, it has a body, right? So it is making use of its body to carry the data that we are trying to submit. The data can be any data, it can be any sensitive information, right? That's why it is not getting displayed in the URL. So the confidential information can be secured by using the post request, yes or no, right? So in this case, it is completely opposite. For post request, security is not compromised. And again the same points, confidential information is being replaced. Confidential information could be carried in the body of the post request. So it is not visible to the end user. Visible to the end user. Why it is not visible? Post request as a body to carry data or information, whatever it is, or any confidential information. So this is this explanation is for post request. So this is how you should answer in the interview. This is for get request, and this is for post request. Let me remove this. So now the post request, when you talk about body, the answer to your question is what? Yes. Post request as a body. That's why the data is being transferred inside the body, which is not visible. Now the second question is data request limit. Right? So when you try to send data by using the get request, for example, in this case, the same example, right? So let us make some changes. Now I am using what get. Now you understand, now you see, let me stop and restart the server. Stop. Okay, server is started. So now the request has been changed to get request. Let me type some data and let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What it says, right? So here I am passing some data. The data is in the form of characters, Balaji, and the password is also a character. At the same time, in future, I may have a front end page where I will be uploading images, right, and audio, sometimes video, right. I will be having an option to upload raw data of different types. It can be string type or it can be numerical type. It can be audio version or it can be video version. It can be in the form of images. So many informations I can upload. But this get request is going to support only what, a few bytes of memory. So if the memory is exceeding above 2048 bytes, the get request will not handle. So the data that one can submit by using the get request is very limited. Maximum you can submit 2024 bytes of data, right? If you do the same thing with the post request, right? I'm talking about the submission. When you're trying to submit any form, right, the data that you're carrying, or the information that you're submitting, right, can have there are no limits for that submission. But when you take get, there are some limits, there are some limitations. You can send up to 2024 bytes of number. The second case, right? Same example, data type. When you talk about data type, you can send only only characters, or I can also say that the data type can only be ASCII values. All numbers, all alphabets, all strings, all symbols, right? Only those information can be sent by using the get method when you are trying to submit an information. But for the post method, right, you can submit any kind of data. Either the language wise, you can take Tamil, Telugu, English, whatever it is. All the languages are accepted, all the images are accepted, JPEG, anything, any format of data is accepted by using the post request. This is one of the major differences, right? So here I have specifically mentioned a property which says safe. When you talk about safety, it is safe. Now try to understand one thing. Post is not safe. So here I am talking about safety in context with the resources, not context with the secured information. Understand? When I say safety means nothing but if you are trying to get any resources by using get request, right? The data is going to be safe because new resources will not be created every time. For example, so this is the get request. I can keep hitting this request any number of times. I can keep hitting this request any number of times. Yes or no? So for example, so instead of taking this, so let me sit. Okay. So this is a simple get request. If I hit this for one time, or if I hit this for 100 times, you cannot expect any changes from the server. No changes will be there inside the server. Right? The resources are secure, so there are no modifications done. You can access it, I can access it, like Madhu can access it, Thirumala can access it, Pandu can access it. Right? There will be no changes. Right? But when you're dealing with submitting a form, you have to give some information, right? For our information, some changes will be there. For the second information, some changes will be there. Some changes will be there inside the server. For the third information, some changes will be there. Changes in the sense the data will be piled up, right? The data will keep increasing. That changes you can talk about, right? Modifications will be there. Like resources will not be same every time. Resources will keep updating the backend. But for the get request, every time when you hit the URL, the same page you are going to get. No changes. Fetching will happen as soon as it finds this HTML page. It will be written in the response object. No modification will happen. But for the post thing, right? Every time you send any data, the data needs to be added in the database. Memory will be piled up. Every time you add data, memory capacity is going to get reduced, right? So it consumes a lot of memory, and new resources is going to get added every time you try to submit the information, right? That context, when you talk about safety, right, get request is always safe to handle, and the post request is not safe in the context of what? In the concept of fetching and submitting the data. You can write it here. Context of fetching and submitting the data. Not about the confidential information, not about the security. This is all about the safety. Safety about the resources. Right to understand. Right. So this point is talking about the idempotent. See, to understand this idempotent, let me take this example. Right. Please try to pay some attention here. Very, very important concept. Let us use this space. Not able to talk. Okay, so let me use this only. See, have you ever heard about this concept in mathematical, in your math subject? Idempotent matrices. If you have a matrix, for example, if you have a matrix set 1 0 0 1, a matrix set, if let us say that I equal to 1 0 0 1. If you do I square, if you do I cube, if you multiply this I with the I itself for any number of times, the output is going to be same always. Idempotent matrix. Idempotent matrix. How many times you do the multiplication with the same matrix over and over again, the resultant value is going to be same always. There will be no changes to the result, right? So let us apply this analogy for the get request and the post request. Let us apply this analogy for the get request as well as for the post request. Let us say that I have a client machine. So when I say client machine, it is all about what? When I say client machine, it is all about the browser or end user. You can assume that. Okay. So this is a client machine and this is a server machine. Right? By using a get request, if I am trying to send a request, I try to establish a connection with HTTP method by using get request. Right? For example, I have a particular index.html in the server side. Index.html. Right? This is client and this is server. Now understand this. Client has sent a request. He has just enter this URL. Right? He has sent the request. The request is traveling very slow. It's taking a lot of time. Right? And he thought, okay, it already took 10 seconds of time. So and again he has entered the URL. Again the second request is going, and again it is taking some time. By the time second request started, first request has reached the server, almost reached the server. So 20 seconds gone. So he hasn't got any response. So again he hit the URL for the second, again he clicked the enter button for the third time, request has started. So 3 requests is in progress. By the time he entered the request for the third time, right, the first request has reached and the response, it has given the instance response. Right? This is the first request, this is the second request, third request. By the time he entered the third request, right, the first request has reached and the response is given. These things will happen due to the slow internet or the server side. Sometimes there will be some delay in the server side programming due to load balancing. Things will be insisted like that. So response is given. As soon as the response is received, these 2 requests will not be considered. This will be cancelled. Right? It says you can hit URL or you can do you can fetch the information any number of times. But even you can enter the information 1000 times or 10,000 times, but only one response will be given. Request can be any number of times, but the response will be only one. Because the response is going to be static always. The resources are not going to get updated. The client is looking for a particular page. He needs to what? He needs to get that page in the form of response. How many times you hit the enter button, the response is going to be same always. Yes or no? Right? This process is called what? Idempotency. This process is called what? Idempotency. It means same request can be sent any number of times, but only one response will be given. The matrices example, right? So when they ask you, right, what is an idempotent, this is the answer that you should give. Right? So get request is always idempotent in nature. Get request is always what? Idempotent in nature. But when you talk about the post request is not idempotent. Why it is not idempotent? Let us understand this with one more example. So this is talking about get request. Now post request, same thing. For example, you are trying to make a payment for your what we call it as you are trying to place an order to get place an order for something, and you are trying to process the payment. So this is your client machine. This is your server, right? So you have started the payment and you have clicked on proceed button. Right? Request has been sent. This is the post request. Right? So it is taking a lot of time. So you thought to hit the proceed button for the second time. Second request started. By the time the second request is started, the progress of the first request is here. Right? And still there is no progress. It is taking a lot of time. And third request. Right? So first request has almost reached the server. Right? And balance has been detected. So let us say that you have 5,000 rupees in balance. The balance, the price of your order is what? 1,000 rupees, right? Balance detected and the remaining balance is 4,000. You got response for the first request, right? But these two requests will not be cancelled for the post, right? It will reach here, right? From 4,000, balance will be 3,000 now. Response. Again, third request will be reached from 3,000. Balance is going to be what? 2,000 here. Response. Right? So every time you try to submit, right? Every time the changes will happen in the server side. Right? So these cases will be handled by using, in future we are going to handle these cases by using transaction management. That is the second thing. But when you use the post request, right? Every time the changes will happen. For each and every request, the changes will be reflected. It means for every request, there will be a response, guaranteed response. So for these three requests, there will be three responses. Post. So it is not idempotent. So when you say idempotent, for 1,000 requests, there will be only one response. So this can be achieved by using what? Get method. Right? When you use post method, for 1,000 requests, you will get 1,000 responses. Sometimes this responses is going to be, it will get us some trouble. This we will see these situations in lot of cases in the future, but this can be avoided by using transaction management. That is a separate topic in the future. So this is all about the idempotency. When you say idempotent, it means for each and every request, there will be, for many multiple requests, there will be only one response. When it is non-idempotent, for multiple requests, there will be multiple responses. This is what it says, right? And let us talk about catching and prefetching. So catching of data is very simple, guys. Catching, if you want to understand catching, what happens actually is when you use get request is going to support catching. Right? Let us take the same example. You're looking for an HTML page, right? And you will get this HTML page in the form of response. Okay? The response is like this. Should be response. Response. This response. This HTML page will be given in the form of response by using get request. but this response will be saved somewhere in your browser, in the in your caches, your browser history, the form of caches and cookies. Okay, so when you try to access a URL, you will get a response, and a page will be opened. That response will be stored in the form of caches in the browsing history. In the caches, this HTML page will get stored in the caches in the browser history. So when you're trying to access the same HTML page once again, this time the request will be transferred to your caches, right? If there is any value, if there is any the same kind of URL that is available in your history, this will be returned, this will be rendered and displayed in the console. If not, it will look into the server. Right, for the first time it will fetch the request in the server, right? It is and you got a response. This response will be stored in the history. Inside the history there will be a component called caches and cookies. It will be stored, it will be saved there. If you are looking for the same HTML page once again for the second time, this time the request will be transferred or rerouted to your browsing history. There, if it finds that page, right, the response will be given directly. This time it is not going to interact with the server. First it will look into the history. If it is not there, it will fetch into the server. And this is a concept of what? Cacheable. Right? And again, if there is caching mechanism, it means performance is going to get increased, yes or no? Right? If there is caching mechanism, performance is going to get increased. So GET request supports caching mechanism, POST request does not support caching mechanism. So performance wise it is going to be low. Yes, performance as simple as that. Bookmarkable. You can bookmark the get request because you can store the exact page. Possible with get request, but bookmarkable is not possible with post request. So when I say bookmark, well, you can still bookmark the page, but the problem here is, so let me go back to this. So let me see get request, right? Let me go back here and so yesterday we have seen about the service method, right? So instead of service, I am using do get request. So I am specifically using the DOGET method to support the get request, to support only the get request, To support only the post request, I will go for DOPOST method. So this time this is going to support only the get request. So let me stop the server. Server is stopped. Okay, let me restart this server. Instead of doing like this, let me run on server. Okay, so this is the simple get request. My user ID is entered, my password is entered, right? I am getting this page. Now it says get request can be bookmarked. So this is where I am going to bookmark the star symbol. So bookmarking, let me keep a meaningful name. Get request bookmark. What is the advantage of bookmarking? If I want to visit that page once again, right, I can just click on this bookmark. I will be getting this, right? But the same thing we cannot do the same thing with the post request. So to understand that, instead of get, I am going to use post this time. Right? Let me save this. In the application in the servlet, see, I am specifically mentioning the DOPOST method. So this DOPOST method is going to support only the post request. Right? So I have just said that post request is not going to allow bookmarking. Right? So is it really true? Let us understand. So let me run this. Run as run on server. Finish. Okay, server started. Balaji 1, 2, 3, 4. This time this is a post request. Right. So this is a confirmation. So the details are not being displayed in the post request. Now I am trying to bookmark it. So I can able to do bookmark, but the problem is, let me keep it as post. Post bookmark is possible. Question is, bookmark is possible, but the answer is whether that bookmark is getting, we are able to get access to this bookmark or not. That is the question. I have just bookmarked this. So now I am trying to access this post request bookmark. Now I get error. Whether or not I am able to bookmark the post request or get to that is not the question. Whether I am able to get access to that bookmark for the post request or not, that is the question. I am not able to get access. We will get what? 405. I can do bookmark, but after doing the bookmark, if I try to access this post request, I cannot access. You will get error. It says it will be internally, it will get converted to the get request. See, HTTP method get is not supported by this URL. When I try to access this URL every time, right? Internally, the request is being converted to get request. Why get is getting converted to get request? Bookmarking is possible only for the get request. So browser is thinking that this person is trying to place an HTTP get request because he have just bookmarked the page. Internally, the request is being transferred as get, but the control, when the control is trying to fetch this particular URL, right, and over our inside our program is accepting only post request. That's why we are not able to see the data. Right, so this is what it means about bookmark. Bookmarking is possible, but after bookmarking, what happens? The bookmarked URL is going to act like a get request. Making sense? So this is all about that. Now you tell me, I have some advantages on get request, I have some advantages on post request, but it should be appropriate when to use the get request. Right? If all these properties are getting justified, I can go for get request. If all these properties are getting justified, I can go for post request. But if it means to submit the data, go for post request. If it means to fetch the data, go for get request. But at times to achieve what? To achieve caching, to achieve bookmarking, right? To achieve idempotency, right? There will be some cases where you will be choosing get request even to submit the data. There are some exceptional cases. But the question is, what if you are encountering this question like what is the difference between get and post request? Answer should be explained by choosing all these properties. Right? The first answer should be what? Fetching the information for get and updating the resource or information for the post. Right? And the contradiction is going to be, you are going to face a lot of contradiction, and you need to explain each and every contradiction with by choosing these properties as the as the key, and you should deliver your information in such a way that you need to explain each and every category of this particular property. As simple as that. Right? So that's the reason why in the servlets they have specifically included a method like DOPOST method and DOGET method. These methods are going to accept only the post request if the request is post, or if it is the request is get, it is going to accept only the get request. As simple as that. So this is all about the get request and the post request. If you have any doubt,